Everyone knows the bottle, but do you know the story behind it? Welcome to Behind the Bottle by Celia Maestri, where the real stories of the tequila world are finally poured out. From bold beginnings to industry secrets, it's time for a deeper sip into the lives behind the spirits. Pour a glass, take a seat. The story's just getting good.
So for me, it's an honor to interview Celia Maestri. Normally, she's leading the conversation, so I'd like to have a nice conversation with her, who she is my mother. So I'd like to ask you, kind of from your root beginnings, so that other people can get to know the side that I kind of know a little bit about you. So people can understand, how you really are wired, how you really are the soul that you've become. So tell us a little bit about, when you were a kid. Tell us about your parents, your grandparents, what you guys did for fun on the weekends, and how was your life when you were young?
My life is a long story, but we will try to make it short. I grew up in Mexico, and I had only one grandfather from my mother's side, which I love him dearly. And part of who I am is part of him. He used to tell me stories about the revolution, about the Constitution, Mexican Constitution, and the way that his parents subsist in the ranches and horses and making cheese and different life. He was the life of the town and the good of the poor. Everything that he made, he shared with other people. So I think I am wired out the same way, which is who I am. Is because of him and my mother as well. She was very giving Oriental.
So he was the father of your mother?
Yeah, it was father of my mother. And is the one who I had more interaction. So then my mother taught me the same philosophy. We were very Catholics. In our family, we are around 42 priests and one cardinal and one archbishop. So we were in those days, and a few nuns as well. I have even cousins that are still nuns today. So all those values, all those roots and long stories, like when I used to go to Santa Ynez to see my grandfather.
So he was from Santa Ynez, Michoacán?
Santa Ynez, Michoacán, yes.
Okay.
So I used to go there, and he let me, at the school, let me do like in a big, the school, they have a big stage. And they let me do some dances and stuff with all the kids in the school, so make some kind of festive for the town, which the town was like 300 people.
How old were you?
I was 5, 6 years old.
So you remember at 5, 6 years old, you'd go to Michoacán. Where were you from?
I'm from Córdoba, Veracruz.
So you'd get to go with your grandfather and hang out with him, and they would let you play. And then what else do you remember about your parents in Córdoba, Veracruz?
Well, fast forward in Veracruz, I grew up in, between boxes and bottles and tops because my parents had the distillery next to the house. So we just open a door and we just go there and play. And then when I was about 8 years old, if I want to go to the matinee to see a movie, I had to wash 200 bottles so they can give me 5 pesos so I can go to the matinee and the movies in town. So everything from that stage on, I had to gain it. It was nothing given. And I believe that is a good way to teach your kids to have the value and to learn how hard it is to achieve something in life.
So you had brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers and 1 sister older than me. I was the youngest.
So as in your infancy, you'd go to school and then you'd
Yeah, well, after the school, I went to the bus stop wasn't at the store. My parents had as well a liquor store, and we had to do the homework behind in boxes in the warehouse. And then we come up, and my parents used to put me to clean, to dust bottles, and sometimes to sell and to help them until around 3 o'clock. No, that was when 3 o'clock is when I arrived. So then we went home about 2 because they take us the food there to eat there as well. We didn't go to the house to eat and then come back. The store never closed until 10 o'clock at night, which is when we went home, had late dinners, and get ready in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning again, to go to school.
so that was till what age? Because at some point you guys, your family kind of started to grow and things changed a little bit.
That was from 8 years to 14 years.
Okay. And then after that,
After that, my parents built another warehouses and they moved the distillery somewhere else. And then I used to go there only on the weekends, Friday after school and Saturdays, to help them to start, bottling and learn about the business itself. First was like a helping, but without putting too much attention. But then after from 13, 14 years old, I really put attention on what I was doing. And in the beginning, I want to be in my life because it's important this part of my life. I want to be a singer and an actress. And my parents always told me that they prefer to see me dead than going to that route. So I asked them, what you want me to be? And say, I want you to be part of the family. I want you to learn this business. So in the early stage, I understand that my future was to continue the family business, which I put all my efforts to learn, and I took a lot of fun of it. And from there, I started innovating as well, was the beginnings of my innovations.
well, okay, but when you were 13, 14 years old, you were saying that you lived next to the factory, and I remember from the stories that there was a liquor store next to the mercado, and y'all lived down the street, and then the factory was near there.
Yes.
But then the factory moved to 13 warehouses that somehow was built out of this small business.
Yes.
And then hundreds of employees and ranches full of sugar cane and cows. And tell us a little bit about that evolution. How did it evolve from something where everybody was helping to...
Yeah, I think, my brothers and sisters start helping in the family business, start working for the family business. And I came later as well. And I think indirectly we'll help to achieve what our parents accomplished. But in the essence, I believe them back then. My parents used to save. They didn't have, when they make some money, they don't just say, well, I have money now, I'm going to enjoy life. Now they will keep building for us, for our future. And their idea for my father was those 13 warehouses is that we will have at least 2 or 3 warehouses each kid, and we will diversify the business, like having a cardboard box factory, glass factory, tops. And, he wanted to divide transportation. He wanted to divide the business in the 4 of us. So unfortunately, he didn't live enough to see it. And then we kind of, everybody took a different approach in life and live. Only one stayed.
Okay. But Okay, so at 13, 14, it evolves to a business that evolves to what stage was the business? Was it one state, one town, 5 states? How was we're talking about Licores Veracruz?
Yes, it was the family business. Licores Veracruz grew from when I was 14 years old, when I was 28, that I left and moved to the United States, to a company that we achieved up to 2 million cases back then. And our main business was aguardiente and rum, and another Spanish liquors. And as well, we had one tequila called Dos Coronas. So my father came from nothing. So he was a very, very sad story that instead of him to feel sorry for himself, he became a very successful person. But I believe too that has a lot to do with his wife, that always motivate him to become better and not to look in the side dark part of your life. Only look in your bright life that was present at that moment since they got married.
So your view on your parents would be summarized as, what did they show you when they were working together as a couple, as a team?
That no matter what, with the up and downs, they stick together and they have the same goal, and they always work for their kids. That was their goal, not for themselves. Was always for the kids and for a lot of people. They help a lot of people around, from buying cars, paying colleges, buying houses for them. There was a big charity business besides the liquor business behind.
Yeah, I remember like on Semana Santa, like all these trucks full of Virgin Mary. You would just get in a line and you'd have hundreds of cars from the factory just going around. And
they called peregrinaciones in Mexico. And it was the Virgin Maria.
yeah,
This is December 12th. So it's when you recall. There's no Semana Santa. December 12th, all the stores or the factories will bring all the employees walking to the church and have the Virgin Maria there, which was still very iconic celebration in Mexico.
And like thinking about the town Cordova, it's a small sugarcane coffee town. How involved were they and you guys in that community?
Very involved. Very involved that my sister ran for be a queen of the town, which she won, and then 5 years later happened the same to me. I ran for a queen, and we, I had the privilege to win, but all the money that we always accomplished for those runs, they were for the town of the Cordova town, to build the streets, to build, to improve the town, because it was a small town.
Yeah. I have an uncle that was here 2 years ago, and he told me that when you ran, he could barely afford one car, and that you raised 43 cars of money worth, and he was the treasurer,
Okay.
Tío Dante.
Uh-huh.
And he said when your mom ran, your grandfather would just smile, and he helped the town raise 43 cars that my uncle Dante had won. So he felt really proud that you guys helped the town with that kind of impact, and then of course it helped the community.
I would tell you something that is very laughable about that run. The best part that I remember is to raise money. I went to a circus. So I asked the owner of the circus if he allowed me to ask money, every time the circus had a play, if he allowed me to ask for money. I'm saying, unless you go in that elephant and perform with me every day, I will allow you for a week. So I went back home. I put a boots, pants, and I get to that elephant, and I perform with the guy for 8 to 10 days to raise the money.
Yeah. I saw a picture of you on top of an elephant.
Yeah.
So I believe it. So that's a good example of
Achievement.
of what you the other thing is you being a woman in the 80s in Mexico when I was a kid. There was a group called Treinta Caballeros, which caballeros is like male caballeros, gentlemen, and it was like they all helped the town. And you were always helping the Treinta Caballeros like mission. So somehow you always linked yourself to not just female things, but things with men that impacted the town.
Yeah, this association, I opened the association, I created the association of Treinta Caballeros, and was towards to help people to continue see the legacy of my grandfather and my mother, and always help others. So, but all my friends was the majority. I had a girls friends, but most was woman because I think since I was in the liquor business, I encountered a lot of men more than a woman. And the way my mother taught me and my sister was more like a man. I said, you had to be the head of your family. You had to, no matter what, to make sure to provide. And it was like a kind of different way that you raise a woman. So my friends, they own, their parents own pharmacies, or they have a furniture store or whatever, and then when there's a need or earthquake or whatever, they all will help, and we will just fill trucks and send it to whatever the need was.
So thank you for sharing a little bit about your infancy and how when you were young, from a Christian Catholic home, you were able to go work at the factory, but at the same time with the community, with all the workers, eat tortas with everybody. I remember stories that you used to sell food too, like you used to buy the tortas, resell them to the workers, and always you were a merchant. You were dealing.
Yes, they say they have a little Jewish and blood, and I have a Arabic blood too. So all combined, Mexican and Spanish, and in the revolution, a lot of people moved to live in Mexico. So yes, I always in the buy and sell.
So it's in your blood.
Yes.
So tell me when it is that you kind of felt a calling. You kind of felt like un llamado, like the calling of, I need to do this. What was the calling that you felt in your soul?
Well, was a time that I was working for my parents in the factory, and I was sending checks to my brothers and sister. And I said, I don't think this is what I want to be, a messenger in my life. I want to be a leader. So I asked my father if he could sell me his factory. And my father said, great. Yeah. $10 million back then. And I said, okay. And I said, well, let's talk to your mom. So then we went to my mother, and she said, no, I'm not ready to that step yet. I want to continue working. And she had the right, So I said, well, start thinking what I should do. And back then, I was through my second divorce. And I said, I want to go and explore and get out of here because all my life was in Cordoba. And I said, I need to get out of here and start exploring new things and my own thing. I realized that that business, no matter what, how big it was, will not provide for all the families. So I took you and your sister, and I was pregnant, and I moved to the United States. I said, I will stay here for a year. So I started, first, I was not working. I was trying to sense what I could do. And then since I was not full bilingual, I had a problem to speak English. And I have to provide. Because even though I had a business in Mexico that they send me every month a check, was not enough to have the life that you guys were living in Mexico. We can call that we are here, even though you had a nice car, a house, was a lot of sacrifices. Do you remember that? Sometimes we can eat on Sundays $1 hamburger, and sometimes we can eat chinito, which was $4. The, to go there. So it was a lot of sacrifices, but I think every single one was very well worth. And I first worked my life. And to see today the way everything develops and all the sacrifices that we made, we're worth it. We're worth it because we now we achieved what we wanted. Our dreams came true, and we can help others, which is the next mission in our lives.
When we came in '89, just to broaden a little bit in '89, what I remember is, okay, so you opened Mexcore, right?
Yes.
And once you opened Mexcore, what year was it that you made your agreement, that you went to your first WSWA and you picked up Shaw Ross, that you met Harvey Chaplin?
I was in 91.
Was that your first WSWA?
My first WSWA.
So you go to the first WSWA, which I've seen a picture of you and you look very pretty, and my grandma was there, and y'all had a picture of a tiger behind you, which was El Tigre.
Just aguardiente.
The aguardiente El Tigre. And we're talking, and then all of a sudden you land Shaw Ross, Harvey Chaplin.
Yeah.
And he called you a nickname.
Yeah, he called me the Tigresa.
Yeah. So
the
we're
tiger
talking,
woman.
So all of a sudden your first time, you're fortunate, but what experience can you share once you sold them El Tigre?
Well, they become the official, churros become the official importer. But that one experience was the wholesaler. And I think that they did. I was naive at the time, and I was not too much about the liquor industry, but the point was that they had another aguardiente that they brought to the United States called Cristal. So they thought that El Tigre would be a competition of Cristal.
Maybe that's what they thought, or maybe they thought it would sell different. Maybe they didn't understand it, but how many years was the contract for?
The contract was for 10 years.
10 years. So for 10 years, were you able to sell El Tigre?
No, I sold it in the first year only. We sold 10 containers. And then, unfortunately, like I said, what a strategy for them to get me out of the market. And they sold the bottles for $1. But that made me so angry and mad that I said, now we show them and everybody who I am and what I can achieve in life.
So your first challenge was to sell a product to an importer, and whether it didn't sell and it got discontinued, or whether they were protecting another brand.
Sold out.
Either way, it was a challenge that you had to
go through,
prove to yourself, to the world, that, hey, now I have to go and I have to fight and I have to grind and I have to do something, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of the the beginning of that fire of it is very hard, even if you go get the biggest company in America to import your brand.
Correct.
Because that's just the first step.
The first step.
So now that you've accomplished that, and then you had to go then and do what afterwards whenever you couldn't do that?
I had to create my own wholesale importer and wholesaler.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to start doing our sales, selling one pallet at a time.
But then you had a challenge.
I had many challenges.
Right. You ran out of money.
Of course, you run out of money.
So
and may have a money, but we need to survive too. So you had to see what is first.
What I remember is you ran billboards and it said, just try it or just drink it. It said like, just drink it or just try it.
Did you know it?
Did you know it? That was it. It said, did you know it? And El Tigre.
Yes.
And it was billboards everywhere. And then
we won the festival Margarita in San Antonio against all the tequilas.
Yes.
And it was aguardiente.
So you were innovating, making margaritas with aguardiente.
Yeah.
And that aguardiente formula was different for the U.S.
Yes.
It was rum.
It had a little bit of, it was like a rum, light rum, with a little bit of mezcal.
Yes. So you tweaked the formula.
Yes.
And then it worked for margaritas.
Yes, for many years.
Yeah. So that was 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. All of a sudden, you now had other challenges that you had to learn, like you would get remarried, and now you learn another business, which helps fund the liquor business.
The jewelry business.
and tell us about that side of your world.
Well, that side of my world was totally different, which I learned real quick about diamonds and pearls and all the gems. But I found out that I could make fast money buying and selling that selling liquor. So I said, well, I'm going to put half of my effort to do the jewelry business so I can be able to, so the liquor business can survive. And that's what I did for many years, to try to make a statement in the liquor industry.
Yeah, so I remember you would run ads in Mexico to go buy state jewelry, antiques, Art Deco, all these pieces, all these diamonds. You'd buy them, write checks. Tell us.
Write checks, did no money, but came here, and in 2 days, the money was in the bank, and I never owe any money to anybody. I was paid on time. I just told them to hold it for a week, so give me time to come to the United States and to cash up all the jewelry business. I had an angel that helped me to do that. And she passed away now, Jenny. But she buy everything that I brought to the United States. She was our angel.
Yeah, she bought many things. And then many people taught you how to do it, and you taught me many things.
Yes.
But what was interesting is how you would go, you'd run these ads, you'd buy $100,000, $200,000, come back, and you'd make $40,000 in 3 days.
Correct.
And then in 5 days.
Yeah, I was doing every other week.
Tell us
flying back and forth to Mexico.
Tell us about when people with machine guns came to you in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. That was the end of the story about the jewelry business. Yeah, I went. They invited me in Mexico City to buy some estate. We went, and we did. And while arriving at your grandmother's house, they were waiting for me, some gangsters that right there. And they put me a gun, one here and one in the back. And I said, goodbye. I thought they would pull the trigger. I faint. They took everything, and fortunately they left. But that was the the last time I said, this is, God is telling me not to do this anymore. And you had to go back, focus in the liquor business again and in your family. And I never did it again.
Yeah, I did it afterwards.
Yes, you did it afterwards.
Well, I do agree with the angels because luckily they didn't come after me. But, you know, that is what we have to do. So after that, now we're in the year 98, 99, 2000. And when we're there, that's kind of where I think a little spark happened, right? It's been about 10 years in the United States, and all of a sudden agave prices go down. And I remember we went to WSWA. Tell us about that WSWA. I think agave was down, and a lot of people were looking for tequila, and they couldn't get tequila in the year
Yeah, they couldn't
2000.
get tequila. Is when I knew Michael, Franklin Distillers before, but it was just a friendly business conversations. And it's when he came to me and asked me that he needed a tequila at the WSWA, and he needed good prices. So he said, "Did you know if your brother or somebody has the connections?" And I say, "I do have the connections." So that was the next step of our lives, and where I found what he was looking for, and they were buying for $24. I had accomplished for him to buy at 18, so he started gaining a lot of market, and then the personal relation develops, and this when years went by, and they help us in one way or another, indirectly, and they teach us a lot. And we learn, mature the business. And after that, you become other owner the Mescor.
No, but more about, so in the year 2000, you and him start getting, you and Michael start to, started in a business relationship, but then it evolves to a personal relationship that you guys end up getting married. But how does that evolve also into you? Whether it's support, security, or common goals, common know-hows.
I think if we were two lost souls looking for the same thing in life, and we accomplished what we met. And that's why we married at the Vatican. Remember? We went to fly all the way down there and marry at the Vatican, which is for me, it's a very significant part of my life, because it's when I believe that everything had a reason and we didn't know why. But from there to today, Michael become another angel. And here we are.
And now, between y'all's common goal, Casa Maestri gets born in 2007, 2008, right? As y'all's family legacy, where it was at first a distillery, and then the brand gets developed as Reserva MFM, Casa Maestri, and you gave them that gift. What year was that gift?
I think it was like 2 years after 2010, I think it was, when I designed this with another gentleman that, draw. And we accomplished together this beautiful bottle, which for us is Mexico. Michael loves Mexico. I love Mexico. Our common animal is horses. So we wanted to have something that represents the culture, the folklore, and anybody could see that right away that this, when you see in the liquor business, the bottles. This is the only one that says Mexico. The other ones are pretty, tall, short, different designs, but doesn't say Mexico. And this one has the soul, the like I say, the folklore, the culture, the romance, because the tequila is a lot of romance into the agaves and the production and the Maya well, and it's a lot of romance into the beverage as well. So I believe that we accomplished something. We put it a little bit in the back burner for many years. We didn't really push it because we didn't have the resources. We started the factory, and as you know, the factory burned because mescot was growing and needed a supply. So we focused first into put mescot up to date and all the private labels, and then even though this one was there, we didn't have resources or time to really push our brands. We were focused into make the factory work, which, by the way, 90% of the factory are women. So instead of working with men, I achieved to work with women.
No, yeah. It's interesting when I hear you say our,
Yeah.
because
My son?
no, well, because when you were a kid, Licores Veracruz would be our.
Mm-hmm.
As you grew, everything in Mexico is our.
Yeah.
And now in Maestri, everything is our.
Yes.
So as your son, I'm in that timeline with you, and it's interesting watching the evolution of you and how you evolve, and then everything that your dreams and your vision evolves with you. And
the same as you. You've been evolving and growing, and we're very proud of you.
no, thank you. But so now that you are able to kind of look back a little bit, and all of a sudden, now how many brands do you bottle that all these people in the community in Tequila or in the surrounding areas of Jalisco or Michoacan, did you grow agave in Michoacan?
Yes, I grew agave in Michoacan and in Jalisco as well.
At your grandparents' ranch?
Yes.
So how did that feel?
I feel that her legacy continues. It's a continuous of, and hopefully will continue for generations as well.
Of your grandfather?
Oh, my grandfather.
Where you started today talking about. So for you, that feels, I imagine, good.
Yes.
So when you think of today, and Casa Maestri as a producer is in the top what number of tequila producers?
They are number 7 of 200-something distilleries. Has a volume of exports, sporting product.
And it all started with aguardiente.
All started with aguardiente, back with my parents, yes.
So
this is, you're talking about 75 years old. 75 years back when they start, my parents start their factory.
So a lot of evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, I think if you could summarize it to a mission, what would be your mission as a soul in this world to share with others? Your
My mission is, you are here for a reason. You never give up. Share with others and achieve your dreams.
Is there anything else you feel like you'd like to share?
There's many things I would like to share, but can we do another episode?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening to Behind the Bottle, Tequila Tales by Celia Maestri. The next story's already aging to perfection, so don't miss it. See you soon. Don't forget to follow us on social media and your favorite podcast listening platform.